Afternoon. I am so excited for today. I'm glad that you all are in, and as promised, we're already a couple of minutes into it. So, we are going to get started here. I hope you all are ready. I've been looking forward to this. I just want to make sure all our things are set up and everything is running smoothly. So, just give me one moment. Get this up. And while you're coming in, drop where you are tuning in from so that I can shout you out. All right. Let me make sure our recording is going. And everybody who is trying to make it on is here. Let's see. All right. Welcome, Carla from California. We got Cappy from the hometown, 757. I don't know what jumped in my throat. Hold on. Welcome, welcome. And I think Melissa is in Texas, I believe. So we got a few different time zones in the building. All right. So I think we are all good now. I also wanted to make sure we went live in a couple of places. Okay. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you are here, that means that you made it to this training that we're going to be hosting, that we are doing today. So if you're making it on the replay, let us know where you're from as well. We definitely want to shout you out, even if you couldn't catch us live. And then if you are not, like if you're watching this on another platform right now, join us over in the Zoom room. Just put a comment in the chat and we'll make sure that you get in over here. So if you're here live, you're able to ask questions, all the things, but it's for only the folks in the Zoom room. So say that now so that those who aren't there can go ahead and jump on with us. Alrighty. So with that being said, let me get our slide deck up for today. And I saw a couple of people jumping in on the Zoom, so shout yourself out. Let us know where you are. Let's connect in the chat. There are several folks here today that are great connections to make. And so use this time to do that as well while I'm pulling up our slide. And then somebody just let me know when you can see it, just so I'm not talking to something and then y'all can't even see what I'm seeing. Susan, I see you on camera. So can you see the slide? You can just give me a head nod. Okay, cool. All right. So everyone else, if you would like to join us on camera, feel free to do so. I know sometimes, especially Carla over in California, it's a little early. So we understand that. But if you can join us, that would be amazing. All righty. So let's get into it. Today, let's start with this. I wanted to have this conversation mainly because right now is a key time to really be tapping into some of these corporate opportunities and contracts. And what I'm finding is that there are so many people that are unprepared. It's literally still quite a blue ocean. And while I'm seeing so many folks, probably just like you, with years of experience in their field, you're degreed up, you've got all the things that will qualify you to be in position to work with these corporations. What I hear most is we don't have the system, we don't have the process, who do I talk to, all of those things. So if those questions have been in your mind, just go ahead and drop a 1 in the chat so I can make sure I'm talking to the right people. But after hearing those things, I'm like, okay, the system and process is actually quite simple. However, I can understand that most people don't have a B2B sales background. So it can often feel like, well, it's this big company and I don't know how to navigate it. They're speaking language that I don't understand or get what it means, when really they're just talking about the simple things that we all go through in a day by day as running our business. But in a corporate context, it could kind of seem a bit elusive. That's what we'll say. And so that's why this conversation is really important for me to share with you guys today. So I know many of you have heard of me before, but I see some new faces, which is super exciting. And so I want to do a quick introduction here so that everyone knows, who you're talking to and who you're learning from. So can I take a moment to do that? Does that sound good? And I see more faces. I love it. Okay. All right. So let's dive into that. We're going to get back to this question in a second. I want to do this introduction and then I'm going to have you guys answer a little question for me as we get some engagement going. So, my name is Kirsten Allen. Most people get it mispronounced, Kirsten Allen. And my background is in marketing and B2B sales. As I talked about a moment ago, I've worked for 2 Fortune 500 companies, have over 10 years of experience in marketing and sales. I have closed $1 million deals, six-figure deals every day because that was literally my bread and butter in my career for the first 4 years of my career. I traveled to meet with clients in the government sector, the university space, and again, was closing these huge opportunities. Now, what really kind of stuck with me or what caused this shift of what you're experiencing here today is although on paper, especially as an early 20 something, I had achieved a lot. I had the six-figure career. I had, the clients, the accolades, all the things, and was on a trajectory to continue working up the corporate ladder. But inside, I knew that being in that particular space was not my calling. I can remember just being so overwhelmed, especially with the travel that I was doing and just disconnected from what I truly wanted to do, which was to own my own business, which was to take control of my skill set, my impact, my purpose. For those of you who understand that piece, it just felt like a gap, and no amount of bonuses, raises, recognition, although nice, and I felt good when they happened, and I went and did what I wanted to do, but inside that gap was always still there for me. Can anybody else relate to that? Like it just never felt fully aligned. And so when I transitioned, I made kind of a slower transition. So my first foray was, okay, I'm going to go and just move into another corporate position that's out of sales, that's a little bit more flexible. For those of you all who know me or follow me, I have a son. So I wanted to be more present with him at that time as well. And I shifted. And then it still kind of didn't click for me. And it wasn't until I really decided to go full in on the expertise that I had gained and be able to monetize it for myself that I finally was like, this actually has some legs. And in talking to a mentor, she was like, more people need to know about your background and expertise. More people want to know how to get into the corporate space. And because you've done this, you need to be sharing more of it. And I'm like, nobody wants to hear that. They ain't talking about that. They talking about how to go viral on TikTok. They talking about how to, do all these things on Instagram. Nobody's worried about this corporate stuff until they were when I started talking about it and understanding that even for myself, I could obtain corporate contracts based on my own entity. And so I'm like, oh, this actually has some legs and people want to learn more about this. So since then, clients that I've worked with have landed contracts with companies like Louis Vuitton, Norfolk State University, other small nonprofits. I've had clients that were therapy clients that went from charging $100 an hour for their services to $10,000 packages that they did with corporations. And so I say all that to say, based on the results and the facts and the people that we've worked with, this system works. And so a part of what we also will go through in a moment is the experience with LinkedIn. And so that really comes into play with how some of these opportunities are generated. And I'm thankful to have been trained by LinkedIn themselves on how to navigate the platform as a salesperson. And so you're going to get that experience as well. All right. So with that being said, who feels good about what we're going to be talking about today? Does this sound like, okay, we about to get into it? All right. Good. I see some head nods. All right. So let me go back because I want you guys to take a moment and answer a quick question for me. So if you're already in corporate contracts or you've already done some B2B stuff, I want you to think about what is stopping you from going further. And if you haven't broken into B2B yet, I want you to think about what is stopping you. And I want you to just put that in the chat, because that's going to help us be able to, and help me make sure that by the end of this, that roadblock is removed. So if it's, I want to do more and for some reason I haven't, or if it's, I want to get started and I haven't, we're going to make sure that a part of this presentation is going to be for you. All right, right person to talk to. That's my favorite. Scalable systems, I see. I would love to hear from everyone. We got a small room. Okay, access. Perfect. Not sure how to start and who to talk to. Awesome. Make sure nobody's in the waiting room too. Okay. Access. All right, need to know where to start. Okay. Perfect. How many do we have in here? I think not counting me and Fathom is 8. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, nothing stopping you. Okay, awesome. All right, I think we might have heard from everybody. Not sure I have enough knowledge to share with others. Oh, that's good. Okay, we're going to talk about that. Did I miss anybody? All right. So, with that being said, on a scale of one, the next one is on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you about breaking or expanding into the B2B world? So I know if some people are saying where to start, I can kind of imagine where that scale would be, but maybe you might be a 2 or a 3. So let us know what scale you are at right now. Okay, I love the 9s. All right, beautiful. What else? 3. Okay, good. So we've got a good mix in the room. And while you guys are putting these in, I want to let you know that no matter where you fall, you're going to get something out of today. That's exactly what I designed it for. Okay, awesome. I think we got a few more 9s, 3s, 2s, 10. All right, keep dropping those in. So as we're going through this, I want you guys to think about those answers. And as I'm going through the different points that I'll mention today, I want you to just notice any shifts or changes that you may have as you are experiencing the different points that I'll share with you today. I'm going to go back at the end and I'm going to ask you about your confidence and ask you about how you're moving forward to make sure that this was of value to you and that you have actually gained additional confidence through what we're talking about today. All right, so let's get into it. Now, I like to pull recent numbers. So before this conversation, I'm like, okay, I want to be able to show them what this opportunity is. So for most of you, you're already familiar with corporate opportunities. Maybe you've done them in the past, so you understand how this process works, right? So we don't have to get into why corporate contracts, like we don't have to understand like what the purpose is. What you do need to understand and what most people probably don't have the numbers on is the opportunity. So as you can see here, I pulled this just before this call to make sure that it was relevant. But the studies show, one particular study shows that over $840 billion is spent annually with supplier diversity, with diverse suppliers among corporations. So, and I'll explain this a little bit. I don't want to get too deep into it because we can really get pretty far. But companies have what are called supplier diversity departments. So this is where they spend money with women-owned businesses, African-American-owned businesses, veteran-owned, all of the diversity distinctions that you can think about. So they have initiatives. Many companies have an initiative to spend at least $1 billion with diverse suppliers. So now you think about that and think about all the suppliers that work with corporations. So we already know diversity pools are very small, right? No matter if you're women-owned, minority, whatever the case may be, that's already a small group of individuals. Companies just in that sector spend $840 billion a year. Yes, this is today. This is what I pulled today. So with that being said, and I'm glad you asked that question, Catherine, because I know that's likely coming from a lot of companies pulling back on diversity initiatives in terms of their hiring or ERG groups and all the things that they are typically involved in terms of promoting and ensuring that people who work within the company are of diverse nature, right? So a point there to call out is companies and even the government. So I know the government is a big deal that people are talking about, are we now going to be on the other side of this and not able to get some of these government contract opportunities? That is not true. There are still diversity initiatives, even in the government, and companies are still working with diverse businesses and have commitments to work with them, especially through organizations like the WeBank organization. They still have strong sponsors that are looking to work with diverse suppliers. Okay. So I wanted to call that out just as a point of relevance, because I know a lot of talk is going on right now. And sometimes we need to kind of blind that out and look at the facts. Money is still being spent. They still need to work with companies like you to get the solutions they need. Okay, I don't want to get too far on that. So that's the opportunity. The reason I share this is because we have 10 people on the call right now, or 8 people on the call minus me and my assistant here. And even if we divided that by 10%, I don't even know what it'd be, what, like 8 billion? Yeah, probably 8 billion, or that would probably be 1%, 80 billion. That still would be more than enough to change every person's business on this line. And no, we're not going to get all of that. We're going to get a percentage of that through our efforts. But I wanted to show you how much is actually out there to show you, number one, there is no competition. I showed that from the beginning, that this is a blue ocean. But number two, there's more than enough than one of us could ever acquire in a lifetime to be able to change our lives and change our businesses. So we need to be tapping into this. So how much of this, who wants a part of this? I mean, even a 0.5% would be life changing. Okay. All righty. So let's get into what this framework and purpose is going to look like. Now, I told you guys a little bit about kind of the story of why I got behind this, but I want to tell a quick story in terms of developing out this framework and the first few clients that I was working with. So when I first started imagining what this would look like, I really walked through my process that I did when I met with clients or when I developed new engagements in my corporate career. And it all really boiled down to these particular steps here. Now, this whole process has so many different sub layers that go underneath it and so many different weaves that we can do. I don't want to confuse you today. So we are really going to stick to these 3 parts of the process right here. And I'm just going to give you really strong points that you can take and use right now. So just know this is how deep it can go, and it can even go deeper under each of the layers. But I want to get us started with the first key steps that are going to make sense before you even talk about signing your name on the dotted line or even doing the engagement. You've got to do what most people said in the chat that they were missing: who to talk to, identifying the right buyer. Because the thing about it is, you can have the amazing expertise, you can have all the accolades in the world. And just as in our B2C business, if you're talking to the wrong person, it goes over their head. And what I find that most people get wrong with this is that they just think they can reach out to anybody in the company. They think that, if their name is Joe and they work in HR, they're going to be the right person to talk to. And they often get discouraged or give up the process altogether when they're doing outreach or making connections on LinkedIn and they don't get any responses. Or they get someone that does respond and they don't know where to send them. We've got to understand that with these buyers, they are busy. So they are not in the business of working for us, and they're not going to take any of their precious brain cells to try to figure out where to send us, right? So we've got to do the due diligence, and we've got to do the things for that align with what we're looking to achieve in order to get where we need to go. So we're going to talk about that. The second piece is the discovery, and we're going to touch on this a little bit as we talk about the process to engage those buyers. So when we identify, of course, we then need to make a solid, and you're going to learn this. I don't like the word pitch. I know most people talk about that. Like, how do I develop the right pitch? The pitch is really way down here in this process. It's not the first thing that you're going to be sending to individuals. That's what most people think and what they preach. And that is the opposite of my belief. My beliefs are all about building solid relationships with people and solving problems. One of my main taglines is, how can I make you the hero of your team, your role, your company? And so with that, my hat is, of course, a salesperson, but it's really first a strategic partner and a consultant. So you'll find that throughout the process, and you'll see that weaved in that strong belief of building true and lasting relationships. That is how you gain multi-year contracts and repeatable opportunities. It's not through having the best pitch. It's not through being annoying with follow-up. It's understanding how to build a true long-lasting relationship. Okay. So when I work with, I'll talk about India, for example, and she was the therapist client that I just talked to you guys briefly about a moment ago. So she's a mom of 4, super busy. She's a single mother. She's a therapist. She takes on a lot in the role that she was doing. Now, for her, she knew that there was an opportunity for her to tap more into corporations, but she really got stuck here, which is what we were talking about a moment ago with many of you in the chat. who is the right person, and how to package her therapy services, which she didn't go in and start providing therapy to the corporation. And we're going to talk about how to package up different offers in just a moment. But she needed to figure out how to identify the right person that's going to be appropriate for her services. And once we began to work together to really extract what is the end result that people get from working with her, and we started to go down the realm of leadership coaching, and that really stuck for her, then it was, who is the right person that is already facilitating or hosting programs around this within the company? That's the person that we need to talk to. And so I'll show you a little quick research that we typically do to find that. Okay. And through that, she was able to develop out her business and again, go from charging those hourly rates into developing those 5-figure coaching packages using the same skill sets that she was doing as a therapist. Okay. So you're going to be getting a sneak peek into that. All right. Discovery, I mentioned that we'll talk about that, how to set that process up. And then the proposed piece, we're really just going to touch on just a little bit. Really, I want to stick to how do you even get to point of getting them to say yes, because that's where most people get stuck. And I can determine that from the chat today. So that's where we're going to be going. All right. Now let's talk about in identifying the right buyer, and that's step one, let's talk about the package. So why is this important? Again, as I told you a moment ago with the therapy example, or even with my client, Lauren, who was a mindfulness and gut health expert, she had an app. She did mindfulness trainings with individual women who were in professional settings to help them learn the skill sets to navigate stressful roles, right? So that was more individual based. Now, when we packaged up her offer, we had to develop it on a corporate context. So this is super important because companies are not going to, and I meant to get you all to put in exactly what your expertise is. So do that really quickly. So as I'm going through this, I can give a few examples. But for example, if you are a, relationship coach, companies are not going to hire you to help their employees build, stronger marriages or stronger romantic relationships. We understand that, right? However, you do have a corporate opportunity because when you really peel back the layers on what you do, yes, the B2C world is telling you to focus on niching down, and it's telling you to, have this particular audience, and this is it. But when you really think about it, the core of what you do potentially as a relationship coach would be creating stronger bonds between two people. Yes, some of the things you might talk about are related to marriage topics and all of those things, but it's really building better communication so that you can be a better team. Can't some of those applications be applied in a corporate setting? Absolutely. Yes, we might be talking about intimacy and love and all of that, but we're going to talk about trust. We're going to talk about communication. We're going to talk about honoring one another. We're going to talk about listening skills. Like all of those things can be translated over in the corporate context. And all of a sudden, you can go from just working with married couples to actually coming in and training corporate teams on how to have better relationships. I've seen it done. So with that being said, the package is going to be very important for ensuring that companies do not overlook you. If your brand is only based upon working with individuals and you develop that and you haven't thought about how it enters into the corporate landscape, they're going to look at you and say, oh, that's nice. They're going to smile and, cool. But they won't understand that, oh, Kathy has something that we budgeted for this year. Oh, Susan has something that we were just talking about in the meeting yesterday that we need for our managers. We need to talk to her. That's the kind of reaction that you want to get versus, oh yeah, I do therapy, which is great. How does that apply to the corporate context? Don't leave them to guess because they won't do it. You have to know and be able to communicate that clearly. All right. So let's talk about the examples of different offers that you can have. Let me see whose question that was, or someone said, the right person who to talk to. Someone talked about what, I'm not sure if my expertise is, it was Erica. Okay. Enough knowledge to share with others. So that's what that is. Now, these are the particular offers that you can put your expertise into. But to answer your thought or to address your thought, Erica, not having enough knowledge to share with others. I want everyone, if you're kind of wavering on what this looks like, to even think about not just what you're doing in your company or your business today, but your entire life experience. And an example of this that can help anchor this for you is a current client that is in one of our programs, Michelle. She has a ton of different experience, and actually her corporate career is not what we chose to position her for as she went into B2B offers. And I think I have a slide on this probably after this one. Okay, yeah. So when I talk about B2B clients, that is your traditional corporations, but we also have clients, as you can see, that worked with universities, nonprofits, K-12 schools. These are all organizations that have budgets and they are ready to spend them with you in addition to the government. And so with Michelle, for example, in developing out her offer, we decided that universities were actually a good fit for her. She was really passionate about her transition from being a immigrant to coming into America for the first time to come to college, and what that transition was like from a holistic perspective, getting a car, financial skills, leadership skills, networking skills, all of those things. And we found a good sweet spot for her in universities because that is a pain point for not just students immigrating, but students transitioning in general. And do you know, universities have spent, from $5,000 to $12,000 to bring in experts to do 90-minute keynote speeches on different topics that will impact their students. So sometimes it might not just be what you do in your work or what you do in your day-to-day. It could also be your life experience that companies will pay handsomely for you to come in and train on. Now, she could turn that, and I'm going to go back to the offers real quick. She could turn that into many different things. So we talked about packaging it as a speech, but she could also do some consulting around how the universities can support their students in transition. She could do so many different things in order to create offers that service these particular students and the university client. So that's just one quick example. However, B2B offers could look like all of this and even more. It could go even deeper. Speaking, training, individual coaching, consulting, DFY services like marketing services or accounting services. It could even be licensing if you all have books or curriculums that you created. Another client, April, she has a whole curriculum that she just founded for high school students transitioning into adulthood. That curriculum has a book and a course, and she's currently selling that to K-12 organizations. She created it once. She's able to position herself for opportunities moving forward through licensing. Okay. So I want you all to take a moment. We kind of just went over this and we're about halfway through the content. So I want you guys to just understand I say B2B because there's so many different ways that you could get into some of these budgets that are not just traditional corporations. All right, so I want you guys to take a minute to just jot down if anything new came to you, like your experience or what you're already potentially offering or thinking of offering to corporations. Just jot that down in your notes, and then when you're ready, put it in the chat, and I'm just going to talk through a few of them once we move on from there. So which offer aligns with your business that you're already doing or that you're thinking about, so that we can workshop a few. We're going to have some Q&A at the end too, but I want to make sure that we're moving along gradually as we go through these pieces. All right, so I'm going to give us just about 5 minutes, give myself a little water break, and give you guys a chance to just kind of jot those down and let me know in the chat. Awesome. I see one there. Supply chain training. I love it. Okay, Erica. All right, we are definitely keeping you lifted up. And maybe perhaps this is a good time for you to consider how you can leverage those skills from your corporate career to build your own thing. I don't know if you heard my story in the beginning, but that I did not think that that was possible. And the opportunity opened up for me to do that. And not even that it was possible. I didn't want to. I was like, when I get out of this, I'm doing something totally different. But actually, the opportunity opened up for me to use the very same corporate skill sets that I had to position myself for opportunities in the future under my own name and under my own company. All right, let's see. Book licensing and speaking. I love that. individual coaching and training. And Rosanna, I don't know if you already dropped this in, but let us know what you offer, or what your expertise is, I should say, that you're looking at positioning with organizations so everyone can be aware as well. Software licensing, love that. And if we had anyone new, I know I let a few people in, but I think everyone who is here already introduced themselves and let us know what they're focused on. Okay. Did we get everybody? Individual and group. Not sure about DFY services yet. Okay. All right, cool. So let's keep it moving to the next point here. So once you have crafted like what that offer looks like, and of course it can go deep in many different directions, and what you end up offering corporations is really going to be aligned with what their needs are. So remember I said my belief is around relationships and around service. That also means we don't prepackage offers and just sell them off the box to these organizations. We are actually co-creating a solution for them that includes everything that they're looking for. So, like I said, we won't talk about my discovery call process and the guide that I use in the questions today. We don't have time for that. But a part of my questions are really around what will move the needle. And I use that to develop a package. So, if, for example, they say, we really want more individual, they wouldn't say coaching, but we want more support individually for our managers or our second line leaders, then I would bring up the individual coaching. Or if they say, hey, we want to have some ongoing sessions for our whole, staff, then I would look at that, right? So the development of the offers are really going to be centered around the conversation, and I'm developing it based on what they need, not what I want to give them. Does that make sense? Cool. All right. So the client. Before I get to this, I want to do a quick test. Does anyone already know, and you can put it in the chat, who your ideal corporate decision maker would be? Who are the people that you will reach out to for the services that you would provide? And this is for the people that, are already in the corporate space, or you've already done some planning around it. I just want to see where we are. Like, who is your person? HR, or else, somewhat, okay. HR for training, okay. Finance directors, beautiful, yep. Okay. I've been thinking this, fit to lead a performance wellness program for ambitious professionals, okay. All right, great. So one thing I want to break down on that, because I see HR, and I know that a lot of people, consider that HR is a huge umbrella, right? So we have, people in HR that do benefits. We have people in HR that do what is called business partners. So they run the entire, floor or area of an organization. We have leadership development folks. You have all sorts, right? And so when it comes down to it, in employee development, employee engagement, you want to be that specific with it and make sure you're in a space that they focus on leadership programs, if that's for you, or they focus on employee engagement programs or wellness programs. And then when it comes to the supply chain side, that could be good people for you to talk to. Is it Kiwana, I believe, for that training? So it might be the director of supply chain, or it might be the, depending on the size of the company, it might be the VP if it's a smaller or medium organization. So you just want to be very, very specific with who it is that actually drives the programs and services that you offer, and know that there's so many different areas of it in HR that if you reach out to somebody in benefits, they're not going to know how to help you. So employee development, employee engagement, leadership development are probably going to be great for many of you all who are in the HR space. All right. Let me see, Rosanna. Fintech coaching presence. Okay, yeah. So companies have whole leadership development teams, whole learning and development. That's another one that you all may want to look up. Those folks are going to be your people that you want to make sure you speak to. Okay, I got it right, Kiwana. So glad you're here. Peers for different companies, the influence. Yep. So you actually must have seen my slides, Kathy, because the next one was going to be actually, you know what? I know you didn't see the slides. We're just here. So that is a part of what I wanted to share as well in terms of the difference between the types of folks that you can engage with within a company. So yes, you have your original decision maker, you have your advocates or your influencers, and you also have your end users, which are the people who are actually going to consume your offer and, get the benefits from it. The decision makers are the people who decide whether you get paid or not. You want to know these people so that you can make sure you have all of them in your corner and supporting you as you move forward to landing this opportunity. So when it comes to decision makers, you want to make sure you understand their goals, their challenges, and their desired outcomes. Who has the money? That's all you want to talk to. Who has the money in the budget? And for end users, you want to understand in your offer, how can you develop or facilitate them getting to the transformation, learning the skill, and reaching the goal, okay? And for your advocates, you want to be very clear on who it is that you're looking to connect with so that they can make that appropriate match for you. So hey, I'm really looking for people in employee benefits because I have this fitness service that I'm looking to bring to your organization. Who would be a best fit to talk to about this? Typically, I speak to, the director of employee benefits, the director of wellness. So you want to also give some examples of specific titles that your people go by so that they can help you get to the right person. The advocate or the influencer is going to be important in this phase as well. All right. So we just kind of went through that before. I did that a little precursor to that, but just jot this down in your notes, just from the few examples that we talked about. Who is your decision maker and who is your end user? So we talked about, universities could be a potential client. So university students might be your end user, but the student activities director might be your decision maker. All right. So take a moment to jot that down. And I'm going to move my desk up real quick. I think. Isn't it moving? Okay. Sorry, y'all on other platforms. You can probably hear me moving this desk up. Just take a moment to write that down. All right, everybody got your decision maker down? All right, so sell it. Of course, this is important. It's important to have a process. It's important to know exactly how you're going to move people from interested to signing on the dotted line. Now, when it comes to the sales process, again, we want to make this interactive. And you know what? You guys can come off mute as well if you would like. When it comes to the sales process, meaning from reaching out, and we'll talk about, I think the next slide is going to go into my system for how you engage with people. But when it comes to reaching out to organizations, the follow-up, and then, getting their responses and getting them on a call, where do you feel the most friction? Is it, and I know we talked about, some people said, finding out who to talk to, but in any sales process, where do you find the most friction in that process? Is it getting them on, the follow-up to get them on, or once you have them on the conversation? Follow-up. Yep. Yep. I know it. Most people do say this, and this is the part, getting them on and follow up. Okay, converting. So that's on the actual call, Kiwana. So getting people on the call to talk with you and then getting them to move forward. Okay, cool. Kathy says follow up. Who else? All right. I love that you all said the follow-up piece because that's difficult for most. It's like, hey, I can send the first email, but after that, I can have a good conversation, but how do I move people forward after the conversation? Which is key because I know people in our B2C world will say fortune is in the follow-up and all of that, but the follow-up is super important in the corporate context because this is where most companies will, because as we mentioned before, people are so busy that follow-up is going to be important to stay top of mind and be able to move them forward. So when it comes to the sales process, and again, going back to my beliefs of not being pushy and not being overly desperate to get an opportunity, it's super important to ensure that your follow-up is, and I think I have a quote in here, that it is purposeful and timely and not desperate. So I typically tell people in this day and age, give people about a week or so, to be able to respond to you with everything that they have going on. Don't be emailing them the next day saying, did you get my email? They are not your employee. They are not worried about you, especially if you're doing cold outreach and they don't even know you. Give people grace and set a follow-up that's going to be natural for them to want to move forward and not block you. So that's the biggest thing. So having that system and process in place, and that is one of the things that I teach clients, is not only how to do the initial, but how to automate and delegate the process to be able to follow up with those interested leads so that they don't fall through the cracks. Many of us are busy, right? We're running our businesses, we're running our organizations, we have families and things going on. And so I like to make sure that it's a simplified process that can be duplicated with teams or with systems. All right. Go to the next one. All right. So I like to, and I know I keep dancing around my little slides here, but I am going to go back to that one in just a second because LinkedIn is a big one, but I do want to introduce you guys to the whole system. So remember when I said how deep this can go? Like it can be process on top of process on top of process. And I want to keep it simple for this training. So the 3-point system that I typically use is direct touch, online, and in person. I like to have all three so that you can be able to engage clients in multiple different ways and not just rely on email. So with that being said, hold on, let me move this up. That's where I put it. Follow up powerfully, not desperately. Go ahead and write that down so that you can remember that as you go after these opportunities. All right. So how many of us are already on LinkedIn? Probably everybody. Put a 1 if you're on LinkedIn, put a 2 if you're not on LinkedIn. Perfect. All right, cool. And how many of you actually like and know how to navigate LinkedIn? Because I know some people are on there, but they be like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not getting opportunities from there. It's kind of stale over there. So how many actually are leveraging LinkedIn? Okay, I need help right now. -1, Catherine, or one for okay, I see you up there too. All right, about 1. Okay. It's been working as of recent. Good. Okay. I love to hear the LinkedIn success stories because it is a powerful platform. Okay, Carla says would like to learn to use it better. Who else? What are your LinkedIn feels? Okay. All right. So I need to learn to leverage it. Works. Perfect. All right. So the main thing, and I'm glad you pointed that out, Catherine, excuse me, about LinkedIn getting spammy, because that is a lot of what I hear in terms of doing outreach and people being a little hesitant to oh, congratulations, Rosanna. I got all my speakers for my summit on LinkedIn cold messaging. Beautiful. So it does work. Look, I was about to say, plenty of people say the messaging, oh, I don't want to do that because it's too spammy. There's an example right there. With the right approach, with the right relationship building, which is what this is all about, LinkedIn can be a powerful tool as a gateway to establish connections both online and offline. So I have an entire training that I do just on LinkedIn. So we're not going to get into how to leverage it and all those things in this particular one. But what I do want you to know about LinkedIn is that you want to make sure that it establishes your presence and it has a great mix of content that decision makers and end users can relate. I know a lot of the people that I talk to, they post things around their individual or B2C business, but not enough that relates to the corporate context. And that is a huge miss for LinkedIn. I do have a guide, I believe, that I've done on LinkedIn. So I'd be happy to share that with those who are interested as well. I'll do that as a part of the follow up with this particular training so that you guys can get some more tips and tricks on LinkedIn that you can use as well. Okay, so that's your gateway to be able to get information on who to email, invites or things to be a part of to go to in person, and how to engage those right people. So you want to be able to use the search on LinkedIn to identify who those decision makers are that actually have power to move you forward in these opportunities. I can get whole nerded out on LinkedIn, and when I'm with my clients, I'm like, here's who you need to be working with, and we do a whole search process. So there's an endless supply of those people you want to contact that are all on the platform, and LinkedIn will help show you where you need to be even in person to create faster engagements with these people. Now, online and email is going to be more of a volume process, but how you move contracts fast is go get in person. Join organizations like the Association for Talent Development or the Society of Human Resource Management, which is a good one for many of you who said HR, so that you can be in the space and in the room with people who make those decisions and rub elbows with them. All right. Okay, so we're getting to the end here because I want to leave some time for questions. I do really well with questions, so I hope you guys wrote some down so that we can be able to workshop some things and get you some clear next steps moving forward. But I want you to be able to understand one key thing as a part of all of this. Once you get that offer in place, knowing exactly, so Society for Human Resources Management, that's SHRM, which is SHRM. Just want to correct that for Catherine right there. That is the system that you want to have in place along with the follow-up, as I mentioned. So having those touch points, whether it be email, LinkedIn, in person, and having at least that once per week cadence in the queue to ensure that you're staying top of mind with these organizations. And they know not just that you're interested in selling. And this is why I said, I'm not about the pitch. I'm really about pitching a conversation, pitching the opportunity to talk and see if there's a solution that you can provide to the organization is always, always going to be my philosophy and thought. So it's not long emails that talk about you or these LinkedIn messages that you're seeing. Really, my best messages that have moved opportunities forward and have moved clients forward to land contracts in as soon as 2 weeks. That's our record time, going from cold messaging to a closed contract in 2 weeks. That was literally from a basic email that said, hey, introduction of the person. Here's what I do. I noticed this about you. Would you like to have a conversation? They said yes. They found some synergy, close the deal. Boom. That simple. Okay. Now, of course, there's nuances, but the whole premise of this process is to be very natural because people are getting AI, they're getting spam. So being yourself, having your warm voice, having a voice that's wanting to be a consultant versus a salesperson is going to take you far, especially in this time right now. So leaning out of in-person or direct connections, LinkedIn messages, and all of that is a mistake. Do it with power, do it with humanity, do it with authenticity, and you're going to break through that noise and they're going to be ready to talk to you. Okay. Now, let's take some time for questions, and then I'm going to share with you some ways that we can work together so that we can take these next steps forward. So I know there were a couple of things in the chat that people were kind of wanting to figure out. So I do want to get a sense for where you are in terms of your initial, points of what do we want to call it? The first things that were stopping you or preventing you from moving forward. I want you to just check in with yourself there and see what you still may be missing. And then if you wrote down any questions throughout our talk, you can go ahead and jump off mute. Don't be shy.
So, Kirsten, I have a question.
Sure.
If someone has never done a contract, and what do you recommend as that first starting point? Because there's so much that goes into it. Like, what would you say is step one?
Yes. So step one is going to be to really get clear on how your experience or your expertise translates into the corporate context. You got to know that before you go and talk to somebody, before you even get your business set up. What exactly is the thing that corporations are looking for, and how do you speak about it in a way that makes sense? And I say that because that's going to drive all of our other actions. That's going to drive, should we be positioning you with universities? Should we be positioning you with corporations or nonprofits and all of those things? So what is the expertise first? For some people, that's very obvious. Like for you, leadership is across the board. So you could work with many different types of organizations. So from there, then you need to look at getting your business set up so that you can actually look like a person who works with corporations. That's a big piece of that branding piece on LinkedIn. So you start going by titles like corporate trainer, leadership development trainer, those things that corporations would already be looking for. You want to make sure that that's very clear. If you have a website, you want to have a corporate page that describes what it is that you provide for organizations so that they can see that clearly and understand, oh, they get it. She gets us. And developing your capability statement is going to be a part of that as well, which that's a new term that I didn't mention before, but that is essentially your resume for your business. And it is a marketing tool. It's not required, but it's important to have as you're having those conversations, because your first step is relationship building. So that's what you're going to focus on and position yourself for. I could say a lot, but I think that was good enough to get started. Okay. Who else? Okay, Catherine. No questions? Okay.
I have a question.
All right.
So once you do that first step,
Mhm.
and let's just say, this is your first time doing a corporate contract, what is the process of even finding out who the decision maker is online that you would need to contact? Are you just searching or Googling, what did we say? Community, employee engagement,
Mhm.
job titles? Like what exactly are we doing to
Yes.
find that out?
Yes. So how I typically start people is, most people know what kind of organizations they want to work with. So they may say my local companies or my local universities, they have an idea of organizations they want to work with. So I like to start with a list of those. And then we develop on top of that. This is why I say LinkedIn is definitely a social media or social networking platform, but it is also like a huge resource that people sleep on. So you could literally name a company, Melissa, that you want to work with. Just right off the top of your head.
Netflix.
All right, so you could literally go into LinkedIn, type in Netflix, and type in so let me do this real quick. I wasn't going to do this, but I can't help myself. So I'm going to do a quick demo of this really quick so you can see it, because it's easier when I can talk or show it for it to land. All right, so you say Netflix. And what I like to do, I just typed this wrong, but it should still come up. I like to go over to the company, and then I like to look at the people. And this is where I use those titles that I shared with you a moment, like that we kind of brainstormed a moment ago, like employee engagement, leadership, da, da, da. I've already searched leadership before. Oh, I thought it was going to come up. So if I say leadership, that keyword allows me to then find people who are likely my person. Bunch of people, talent management, talent and leadership development. This one person isn't showing. Talent acquisition wouldn't be your person. So this is what I mean by HR being a huge pool. Talent acquisition are not going to be your people. They're looking to bring people inside the company. They're not worried about training the people on the inside, especially when you're thinking about large companies like Netflix, your Googles, your Amazons. It's going to be a huge range of people under the umbrella of HR. So then you can start to build your list of potential people you can reach out to just from using LinkedIn like this.
Okay.
Now you have a list. We just identified at least 3 people that could be our target.
I would never know that.
Yeah. Simple. And the process that I show people is literally how to do this within an hour. And like I said, be able to delegate or automate this process to others as they are coming along with the company, or if you already have an assistant or a salesperson, they can be able to adopt this process And you also get some KPIs with it so you can be able to help them manage how many people they should be reaching out to, what type of people, all of those things. And so in addition to, sharing this with people, a part of what we also like to do is get our clients to a place where they can have their team members really running this in the background while you're doing all the other things of your company, within your company. I saw something in the chat. Is the service you offer is this the only service you offer, or do you review resumes and create LinkedIn accounts also? So we have done more of the LinkedIn review side in order to position yourself for these opportunities. And so we can talk about that. I'll put a link in the chat for everyone if they would like to have a separate conversation on what this could look like for them. So we can have that on the side and see what we can do for you, Erica. But yes, we have done some of those on the LinkedIn side. Did that help you though, Melissa? Did we get you together?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, that helped tremendously.
Awesome. Who is next? We got a few more minutes. We got quite a bit of time, actually.
Right. So then I'll come back to another question.
Yes.
Because I know in leadership, a lot of times people are unclear. So that's a part of the problem, is that what's in their head is not coming out of their mouth.
Yeah.
Or they think that what they said is clear. And oftentimes I find business owners kind of the same way. They think that they know. So they say, oh, I can service anybody. So all those agencies that you gave us for B2B, they say, oh, I could do something for any of them.
Yeah.
So do you have I'll say a worksheet or a formula that people can use to kind of say, okay, this is what I do, to kind of map it out, to narrow it down?
Yeah. So yes, short answer. And what that looks like is really determining, when I'm thinking about different people that I've worked with and how we've not niched them down, but kind of directed them in one particular area to start, it's really been based upon them having a particular interest, background, or expertise. So for one example, I had a client that was an attorney. So she knew that training for law firms was like a natural way that she could get into organizations, but she also has some connections and ties to the K-12 space. So when I do a profile on someone, it kind of helps me point out where are your low-hanging fruit opportunities? So we're not going to go to nonprofit necessarily as a start if we really don't have any there's nothing that can make this an easy yes. Because the thing that I want to do when I work with people is how can I move your low-hanging fruit opportunities faster? And so for you, for example, Kathy, because I know about what you do, you're already in corporate training and in the corporate space. So it's let's continue to go down that route and blow that up before we start talking about K-12. Now, could you go in and tell these students about leadership, especially the high schoolers going into their next phase? You absolutely could. But is that your lowest hanging fruit? And is that even the audience that you're excited to serve? Okay, so we're going to table that or just X that all off together and really work with your natural strengths, your natural abilities, and your existing network. So there is no one size fits all. I really just do it by looking at, and I help people, audit themselves to say, where are your opportunities that are already in front of you? Let's go after those first. And then if you want to expand into other spaces because you have something like leadership that is cross, organizations, then let's do that. Great question. Catherine says in the chat, how do you develop the right questions to ask? Now, let me clarify. Can you clear that up for me? You mean once you're in a discovery call, or let me know. Okay, cool. That's the term I was thinking of, an audit tool. Yeah, I love that. I've actually been working on some different AI tools to be able to leverage, that clients can leverage as they're developing, their ideal clients and who to pitch to and all those things. Anyway, how do you develop the right questions to ask in the discovery call? So to answer this plainly, I do again have a formula, but to just kind of give you an overview and insight to it. The main questions that you want to capture, I get so excited because I have this thing called a proposal exit tool or exit checklist. And so for every call, I tell clients they need to capture 3 things: the need, the timeline, and the budget. You do those 3 things. And if they're all in the affirmative, meaning you see no red flags, then you can move forward and develop a proposal. If not, then you don't. And that keeps it really simple because I know that we are all busy. We're not wasting our time creating, slide decks and proposals for opportunities that are not ready to move forward. So the questions that I ask are really in those main 3 buckets. So if I give you an example on the need. So I might say, hey, they might be like, okay, we've introduced ourselves and all those things. And I might say, hey, John, so tell me a little bit about some of the leadership programs that you're already hosting for your staff. And then he might go into those things and And then I might say, well, where do you find the gaps? Like, where are you seeing, people fall off of these particular programs? Or where are you still seeing issues? So that to me is illuminating where I can solve the problem. That's illuminating the need, asking them, where's the gap? For the next step, which is the timeline piece, I might ask something like, okay, so when would you be looking to start rolling out a potential solution for this? These are my words, you would change it. But again, you're trying to open up a window that shows exactly how you can move this opportunity forward. Another timeline question might be, when it comes to your budget cycles or when you determine how you're working with individuals to provide this type of service or this type of training, what does that timeline look like for you? Okay. Budget is very clear. What is your budget for this project? And when corporate clients, we didn't talk about this much, but when corporate clients say they don't have a budget, not true. They absolutely do. I didn't tell you all that I've also been on the other side as the person hiring small businesses or hiring vendors to come in and do services for projects that I was working on inside of an organization. There's always a budget. Now, the person may not know what that budget is, but there is always a budget. And you don't want to get yourself caught when people will say, oh, just send us over what you have. I'm going to help y'all right now, because I done fell into that trap too many times. Never do that, because you send over what you have. And this is going far off your question, but I just got to share this. You send what you have and they make it seem like, oh, well, they can just, afford whatever. And then all of a sudden, oh, this is outside of our budget, because there always was a budget from the beginning. So the best thing to always do is capture a number from them, or even provide them a reference number, a range of what they can expect, get their confirmation before you move forward. So developing the right questions to ask would really be around those 3 buckets that I shared: identifying the need, the timeline, and the budget. Cool. These are great questions. I could literally do this all day. The whole training could have been questions and we could have killed it. All right. What else? Final hurrah. And let me see. I don't even know. Okay. All right. We didn't see anybody in the chat over here. All right. Oh, Carla. Hey.
Hi. Mine was health and fitness. I know it's so broad, and so I really need to narrow my niche down.
Yeah.
I do have a behavior change specialist, but my issue is like, people are like, I don't want to lose weight in the corporate world. I want to make money. Like, what? People want to get fit, but yet there's some stress going on. I'm just having problems like narrowing down my niche. So what resource would be best to narrow down my niche? Maybe go through LinkedIn like you just showed, or have data like, hey, this goes to this. I think I'm working with data.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you're talking, it really reminds me of, I mentioned her a moment ago, Lauren. She's in a similar space to you in terms of mindfulness and wellness. So not necessarily fitness, but in that health and wellness space. And so I'll shoot you her little testimonial video as well. And you can kind of see like how she was able to take what she did and apply it to the corporate world, because I think that'll be a good case study for you. But really what I'm thinking, Carla, is yes, they want to make more money, but the thing that you have to think about with corporations is that their people are the ones who make the money. They're their most valuable asset and resource over any computer technology system, all of that. And so when you help the individuals in any way, there's so many different ways, you want to tie that to the bottom line. So like you said, the data is going to be important. You have to show companies, they already know this for in a broad context, but for your particular positioning, you want to show how much companies are losing the more they don't pay attention to the health and wellness of their employees.
How much they're losing. Okay.
Yes. How much? So your thing is not more about so companies, I didn't share this, but this is one of my other sayings that I like to say. Companies only pay to make more money or save more money. You got to figure out where you are on that line. And you specifically are going to be on the save money side, retaining employees, making sure they don't go out on, mental health or physical disability leave, making sure they don't go to other companies because they're stressed and burnt out, keeping them engaged in their day-to-day work. Like fitness contributes to all of that. So you want to make sure that you're positioning yourself as a key to them saving, like one employee, depending on how, high up they are, especially if you start targeting like executives or high level people, replacing one of those folks could easily be, 6 figures. That's over, multiple people happening with, that's a lot of money lost with the company. They don't want to do that. So they are more open, especially in these days at the time of us doing this training of post 2020, they've become way more open to how they can support employees on a personal level because there's so much stress and things going on.
Okay, thank you. That was a key word, save.
Yes. I love it. All right, any final questions before I share with you all what the next steps can look like? Going once, going twice. All righty, so I want to get you guys approval first. This was the end of the training piece. And so if you just wanted to get, those particular nuggets and things like that, I don't want to hold you. But the important piece to me is always to give people an opportunity on how to take this further. So you notice many of you had questions. I'm sure there are other questions that are in your head or will come later or will definitely come the moment that you try to execute on anything that we shared today, right? And so it's important for me to be able to give a clear path of what it looks like to get support, to ensure that you're not only taking the action, but you're actually getting success from it. Most people will take the information that they get today, try to send an email, try to send a LinkedIn message, and even recreate what I did as a little demo here on LinkedIn. The minute you get to somebody's page, you're going to be stuck. What do I say? What do I do? The moment you send an email and open it up, what do I say in this email? What do I say in my follow-ups? How do I position myself when I get them on the call? What questions do I ask? How do I convert? All of those things are going to come up for you. And there's no way that we can ever pack that into one particular training to meet everyone's needs. So I want to make an invitation to you all to join me in the Get Corporate Clients Now experience. And this is our cornerstone initiative to help experts find, pitch, and close more corporate opportunities in their business. You can already see the passion that I have for this and why I believe more women-owned businesses specifically should be getting corporate contract opportunities, but then everyone who is positioned with expertise inside of these companies that need to get that next step, they need you. And I say this this is also a personal thing for me as well, thinking about my corporate experience. Like I told you, I went through a lot of stress and burnout in my sales career. I went through a lot of tears, a lot of sweat, and a lot of things that were happening with me that lowered my morale. I would have loved to have a Kathy come in and talk about leadership. I would have loved to have a Carla come in and talk about health and wellness. And so I want to be that bridge for those people who have the juice that I wish that I had when I was inside corporations. And I know many of my family and friends are still going through those things in organizations, and seeing people like us come in with expertise, come in with excitement, come in with tools that their companies can't provide them could be the very thing that changes their entire, not only work, but their personal morale, the stress that they're experiencing. So this is not a nice to have for me. This is a must have. And that's why I want to make this offer for you today. So within the program, I'm not gonna give like a whole synopsis and think about all the pieces because of course it can get detailed, but I want you to understand the highlights. The main things that I ensure people in this program walk away with is number one, understanding how to package up their offer. So we gave an introduction to that today. You guys got a lot of good insights, but there's more that we can be able to uncover to really showcase and position you as that expert who they will say yes to immediately because everything that you're saying resonates. And so we do what Kathy was talking about, that audit. Where is your sweet spot with corporations? Where is your low-hanging fruit opportunities? Do you know how many times I did a accelerator a couple of months ago with a person who had never been in my world before, but the accelerator was all about how to get corporate discovery calls on your calendar. And this young lady who was a part of it, she had already blew out the goal within the first week, just leveraging her network on LinkedIn. She just didn't know who to speak to and what to say, but she literally had opportunities all over her LinkedIn profile that she hadn't tapped into. Many of you who said you enjoy LinkedIn, you're killing it. I'd be willing to bet if you sat with me for even 20 minutes and we went through your LinkedIn profile, we would be able to get you 3 or 4 calls booked just based on the network that you have. So creating that offer and that low-hanging fruit is our first phase. The next phase is then going to be your marketing system. So this is where the automate and delegation pieces come in. So the system that I use, again, is that 3-prong approach that I talked to you guys about, the emails, the LinkedIn, and also the in-person engagements. But I like to give this in a systemized way so you know exactly what to do in order to get calls booked on your calendar. So if you've never developed a pitch, we use that with air quotes for organizations. If you've never developed a outreach message or you're not sure how to position yourself, you're going to know exactly what to say and how to say it and on what cadence to say it in order to move those people forward. And through that process, you're going to have a slew, you're going to have a list of companies and decision makers that you can be reaching out to in order to move that forward. So you're going to learn the LinkedIn system. You're going to learn the email processes. You're going to get the templates and guides to be able to do this too. And so one thing I like to also make sure people know is that you're not going to, there's no guesswork. I've already taken the processes and I've literally given you step-by-step, play-by-play of what you need to do so that you can implement quickly and again, pass this on to your team. The last part is going to be the sales piece. So if you remember, I showed this graphic earlier, which is our entire process, but we did not talk about the contracting piece as well as the invoicing and delivery. So many of you have mentioned that you've done corporate opportunities before. What I often hear is that I don't get myself in a position to come back or expand what I'm doing with these organizations. That is a misstep in the delivery and expansion because you should already have something set up to discuss how you can move forward with this organization and position yourself for multi-year deals. So through this process, I'm helping you to set up your entire business and assets in order to be corporate ready and then set you up for these opportunities. The goal is for you to have a corporate pipeline of opportunities that you can close throughout the year. So I want people who go from, yes, I understand corporate opportunities. I've done some here and there. I know that this is a way that I want to go to my business, to now I actually have a pipeline of opportunities that I'm working so that I can crack the code on some of that 840 billion. So how does that sound so far for you where you are today? Moving from kind of got a few things to get together to fully confident in a pipeline of opportunities that you can close throughout the entire year. If it sounds good to you, put a 1 in the chat to let me know. If it don't, that's okay. I just need to know who I'm talking to and make sure y'all still here. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay. So what does this look like in terms of the things that you'll get? So you do get private access to me through this. So I want to make that very clear because I know oftentimes people might think it's a course or they might think, you're just coming into a community and you don't get access. Because of the nature of this work, you need to get private access at various points so that you can be able to move faster. So you're going to have that private access to me at different points of the process. You're also going to have access to the curriculum on demand. So if you ever are someone that's like, hey, I'm jumping on a discovery call. Somebody asked this earlier. And what questions do I ask? Maybe something just kind of popped up. We're in between conversations and you just need something you can pull out. You'll be able to go into the vault. And this is not a vault of like all my master classes that I've taught ever that you have to navigate through. No, this is literally only what you need. You'll be able to go there. I believe it's module 5, pull that discovery call guide out, read it, update some things, and get on your call and feel confident with it. So I like for people, you don't have to be me, but when you're in calls, I want you to be able to present yourself as if you are someone who has the expert and experience that I've had in the past. Okay. All right. So with that piece, you'll have access to that. You'll also have access to conversations similar to this, but really specific on certain elements. So I do classes throughout the experience that's focused on specific areas. So for example, one of the major things that I saw coming up with people was, how do I have that, how do I navigate getting into universities, right? For example, we have a training on that, but I also did a deeper dive on some experiences or some opportunities that are existing in the university space. So I'll pop up, do that, and give you all a challenge to go tap into that space. But there can be many different arenas and ways that those trainings can be given, but that's just extra on-time education that you can get, that you can take action on for different opportunities. Government is also a space that is really popular that we'll be bringing into this as well. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. So I talked about the private access. You get end-to-end access to this entire curriculum, and then you'll also have access to those additional calls that we will do as on-time training and assistance. And then, like I mentioned, the templates, the guides, the resources. I even have a recording from one of my past discovery calls so you can see how it goes live. And so we really make sure from end to end, you have everything you need to be confident on these conversations and to go close deals. We even have a, like I said, I won't get into all the things, but I'm getting excited. Even have trackers so that you could be able to, again, have those KPIs and guides to give your team. So this is the last point that I'll share, because I know many of you do have teams. So if you're like, yeah, I want to understand this for myself, but really I'm going to need, a VA to come in and start doing this outreach for me. The major benefit of being a part of this is that it's you and your team member that can be a part of it under one fee. So that team member can come to the trainings, that team member can have access to the portal through your login, that team member can ask questions and book calls that they need to. They'll also have access to SOPs, to KPIs, so you don't have to spend your time training them yourself. You'll have the resources to be able to make that process easy for you. All right, so a couple of things, of course, as we all do, like people to be able to move forward if they know that it's the decision for them and give them the opportunity to do so. And so what I'm doing for today and what's in it for you today, I didn't share this piece of the puzzle. So if you stay to the end, you just got a treat because I didn't talk about this. A part of what we do is not only teaching or coaching and consulting people through this, we also have a done for you service where a member of my team actually does the outreach for you or for clients on your behalf. So they run our entire system on your behalf while you are also developing the skill sets yourself so that you can have that under your belt, right? So we kind of give you like a jump start. So for those who decide to move forward, and I haven't given the investment piece yet, but I just want to make sure that you understand this as well, we will also bonus you a 30-day experience into the Done For You service. That's going to be our little booster for you. So while you're getting these pieces in place and learning, you'll actually have access to our team who will be supercharging your results by doing the outreach for you. And then we're also, as a part of that, going to start with a half VIP day with you to get your system up and running. So the major benefit to that and to deciding, hey, yes, I want to move forward, and the extra juice that we want to add to this is that instead of it taking, 90 days for you to get your system set up, literally VIP day, you'll be set up, and then we will actually be running the process for you over 30 days. And so that is just taking you trajectory, boosting from what it would take for you to do it on your own. So we want to reward people who are deciding to move forward and want to get more information with that. All right. So any questions on that before I get into the investment part and how you can enroll? And let me make sure I get my link up so I can drop that. Questions, thoughts, concerns? Does this sound like, oh my, I need to be in the space? Let me know. Grab this link. Perfect. Alrighty. Okay. So I've got my link here. So what we're going to do to move forward, there's not a page. And so the reason that there's not a page, the link that I'm going to drop is actually to get on my calendar, is because it's going to be important for me to make sure that this is a fit. We don't want people in here that's not going to do the work. We don't want people in here that is not going to be a good fit for corporations. Okay. So I'm very clear and I'm very particular about working with people that I know can get the result, because I don't want just people in here giving money. And so with that being said, when I drop this link to my calendar, we're going to have a quick 15-minute conversation just to make sure we're in alignment. This is something that's a good fit for you. Answer any questions that you may have that we couldn't answer here. And then from there, if it's a good fit, I will invite you to join. Okay. So there is nothing to go and click right now, but this link will be the gateway to be able to have that conversation and see if it is a fit. All right. So the investment piece. So typically the program or this experience is priced at $10,000 and it's an annual program. So no, you don't have to be in for the whole year, but you have access to the resources throughout the entire year. And the reason I do that is because building a pipeline takes time. We think, okay, 90 days, yes, you'll get things set up, but then 9 months down the road, you might have a question and need to pull a resource. 9 months down the road, you might have a huge multi-million-dollar deal and want to get some consulting support with it. And so we're there for you to build this over time. And that's why we have that length of time inside of the program. So it's typically $10,000. Now, for those of you who are listening to me today, in addition to getting that bonus, we will also grant you a $2,000 scholarship, bringing it down to $8,000 for that experience. Okay. So that is the investment piece. And everything that you get with that, remember the bonus of the half-day VIP day, as well as the 30 days of those done for you services that we will give you. So yeah, I'm shocked too. I'm like, did I really just say that? But I'm shocked too. So that is the experience that we'll offer for you today. If you are interested in figuring out if it's a good fit for you and if you would like to move forward with it, then you can book a call here. I put the link, and I also opened up my calendar for tomorrow so that we can make sure to have this conversation, and those who weren't able to attend get the replay. So if you're here and you have any bit of interest, I would go ahead and select your time now, because the slots are going to be gone likely once the replay goes out and people get a chance to jump on it. So that way we can have the conversation, hash it out, see if it's a good fit for you. We do have other things as well. So the Done For You service is a standalone thing as well. So if you want to get questions about how you can do just that particular piece, or as Erica mentioned earlier, any other ways that you can work with us, this is going to be the best way to connect. But I wanted to make sure I introduced you guys to our Cornerstone experience, which creates all the amazing results that I talked about, from Lauren's story, India's story, all of that. Kathy says, do you have finance options? Yes. If it is a good fit, we will present you with those. We have a financing partner. And then, of course, we use the popular ones like, what is it? I was going to say Kartra, but it's Klarna. Afterpay as well. We have clients that use that in addition to that. And then if there is, based on qualifications, we can also discuss some payment split options as well. Thank you for asking that. All right. Any final questions? Does everyone who desire to have the link have it? Because we got 5 minutes. So we're going to wrap it up here. All right. Wonderful. All right. So as I'm wrapping it up, make sure that you all grab the link, find a time. If for any reason that you don't see a time that works, or, sometimes I've done these calls and the link glitches, just shoot me an email. I'll type my email in the chat right here. I think it also pops up and asks you to pop your email it pops my email up if anything goes wrong with the link. But you can also email me, and then if you have any issues, we can schedule some time that way. However, I have enjoyed this. This has been a great conversation. As I shared with you guys today, this is super important. So whether you decide to move forward now or not, I'm not stopping this. I'm not stopping this hill, this train, and this thing that I know I'm called here to serve and be a reference or a resource for those who are really passionate about moving into this space. And so you'll hear from me again. So, and you know where to find me as well. I'm on LinkedIn. Many of you are connected to me in some way, shape, or form. And so we'll be able to continue the conversation. But no matter what, take what you heard today and move it forward in just one tiny step. There were so many just one key pieces that you all can take away to be able to move this forward. And so my hope and my thought is for you as we depart is Take what you have learned and use it. With me, with someone else, by yourself, doesn't matter. And I'll still be here as a resource for you on the various platforms, and likely doing something like this again to make sure that we are continuing to bridge this gap and getting some of that 840,000, I'm sorry, I can't even say the number, $840 billion that is out there for businesses like us. All right, glad you all attended. You're so welcome, and I will see y'all soon.